Hi everyone and welcome back to the course. I named this video using Python as calculator just because there are so many people, especially beginners, that for them using a programming language is simply performing some basic calculations. Of course, a programming language is way more than that. However, today I'm going to focus on this so you can really see the key Python functionalities and we'll calculate not only integers or numbers but also strings and other data structures. So as you can see, I'm already into the PyCharm IDE and there are a few ways in which you can run the code. The first one is obviously into this file test1 where you can simply write something, let's say print hi, and then execute this file, right? And you will see hi here. The other way is if you go to the terminal, which is basically the same as if I open a terminal into my device. So you can open the terminal and you can write Python 3, okay? And you would go in the same console. So if I print I, you will be able to immediately see the output. Obviously, I would like you to see the code underlined, and I think it's way more presentable if you run it from the file test1. So this is what we're going to be using, but I just wanted to make sure that you also know about the second option as well. So the first thing I will talk about is variable assignment. So let's say if I would have a variable spam, I can assign it the value of 1. I can also assign it a string or text. So you can do, let's say, text would be equal to hi everyone. Okay, so you can either assign integer or string to a variable. Always the variable on the left is the one that gets the value, while the variable on the right is the actual value. So if I do here print spam, and then if I do print text and I run that, I'll get 1, which is the value of spam, and hi everyone, which is the value of text. Okay, so I will comment this out and so it doesn't run anymore in the code, and let's perform some basic operations. Let's say if you want to print 2 plus 2 and run that, this would be equal to 4. So the addition operation works properly. You can also do something more complex. For example, print 50 minus 5 multiplied by 6. So 5 multiplied by 6 is 30. 50 minus 30 should give us 20. And you can see that we're returning 20 here. You can of course perform division as well. So for example, 8 divided by 5, it will give you 1.6, and so on and so forth. Now, if you want to calculate power, so let's write here basic operations, and then if you want, for example, to estimate a power, you can simply do 5 the power of 2. So 2 stars mean power, so this should give us 25, right? You can see here 25. Also, if for example you want to do, let's say, an estimation of a surface of square, you can create a variable width equals, let's say, to 20, height equals to 9, and then you can estimate the surface or the area by simply multiplying those. So if I multiply the width and the height, then I should get the area, which is 180. Using numbers, you can also estimate tax, for example. So if I do tax equals to 12.5% divided by 100, okay? So this would be in percentage. And then if I do price equals $150, and if I want to see what is the new price, I will do price equals price multiplied by tax. So now the new price would be equal to $100.50 multiplied by the tax will give us the new price. So if I want to print now the price, this will give us 12.56. And of course, actually, to find the price after tax, we need to also add the price here. Okay, and this will give us the final price, $113, from which 100 is the price, while 12.56 is going to be the tax. So this is another way to estimate things in Python. For example, if you would like to round this number here, you can simply do it with a round function. So if I do here round price, comma 2, which means 2 signs after the decimal point, and this will give us 113.6. Okay, so this was about the integers, but in Python it is actually quite easy to sum strings. And this is one of the key Python benefits. It is a really simplified programming language. So if I want to do, for example, print, and I can do hi space plus everyone, and then I want to print it, I will see hi everyone. This is how you can just sum strings. If I remove the space here, the strings will be printed together. So this is how easy it is to append strings in Python. You can also use some specific symbols in order to print things within the strings. So for example, if I delete this, and if I want to write doesn't, for example, let's say we have single quotes, and if I want to do doesn't, the T is going to get out because Python would understand this parenthesis as the end of the statement here, so the end of the string, and T will be left out. So if you want to avoid Python to consider certain character, you can simply write a backslash and then the symbol, and if I run this, you can see that we can print doesn't, okay? Because this doesn't get recognized as the end of the string. Another useful thing is, for example, if you want to print something on the next line. So if I do s equals first line dot, and then if I do /n, and then I write second line and run that, actually let's also print it, so print s. Okay, you can see that we have first line, and then on the end this one is split, and next we have second line right here. So you can also print strings with comma. So if I do print 1, comma 2, then if I print that, you see 1 and 2 with space. So the comma would add space between the strings. You can also select a specific characters from a string. For example, if I write car equals to Toyota, and if I want to print just a single letter from this car, for example, if I want to do print car at position 0, then I will print T. If I want to print car at position 3, for example, I print O. Notice that in strings, and actually this is the same in lists, we start with 0 and we continue until the end. So position 3 will not be Y, but in that case it is O. Okay, you can also start on the other side of the string, and you just need to add minus. If I do -1 and I run that, you will get the last letter which is A. If you do -2, you will get E. So when you write minus, you're traversing or starting from the last letter of the string. You can also take chunks. For example, if I do R from position 1, position 4, then you will get OYO. And if you wonder why is that, it is because we start from position 1, which is O, and then we continue until position 4, which is T. However, we're not taking the T because we stop there. We start from 1 and we stop before 4. You can of course do this with starting from the last letter as well. So if I do -2, then we will get the A. We will start from T until the end. When you have a column and you don't have anything after it, this means until the end. So for example, if I put -2 here, this would mean from the beginning until -2, right? Pretty simple. So this is how you work with strings. Let's talk now about lists. So in Python, a list is simply a sequence of different elements. So for example, let's create a list of different squares. Let's write squares would be equal, and list is denoted by this type of parentheses, square parentheses. So let's do 1, then 4. Also another square is 9, which is 3 multiplied by 3. Then you have 16, and 5 multiplied by 5 is 25. Okay, so we have this list of squares, and now let's see how we manipulate this list. First of all, let's actually print it, see how it's going to be displayed, those squares. You can see the list right here printed, and lists are one of the most useful data structures in Python because you can traverse them in many ways. For example, if I want to print squares at position 0 like this, then I will print 1. At position 1, I will print 4, and so on. It's pretty similar to when we extract characters from the string. With the same logic, if I do squares -1, I'll print the last element, which is 25. -2 will give me 16. 3 will actually also give me 16, because we start 0, 1, 2, 3. You can also slice a string. So for example, if I would write 2 until the end and run it, then you will get 9, 16, and 25. If I do -2 until the end, then I will get 16 and 25. We will start from 16 until the end. One interesting operation in Python is that you can also sum lists. So let's see how it works. For example, if I do pairs plus, and let's add another list. Let's do plus. Actually, let's print that. So let's print squares plus 4, 17, 1070. Okay, so let's print that, and you see that you don't actually actually sum the numbers with the numbers of the other list, but instead you just add them to the previous one. So if this one ends to 25, then you add 34, 17, 1000 and 70. Another way to add element into a string, which is actually a quite useful way and a way that is used very often by the Python developers, is by using the append function. So if I do squares dot append and I write here inside, okay, so which one is the next square root? 36. And then if I print the squares, you get 25, and then we append 36 after that. You can definitely explore all the list functions in the web. There are quite a few very useful functions, and we cannot cover all of them here, but I would advise you to do that because lists are very important. So in order for you not to get the impression that we can put in list only integers, I will also show you that we can put characters or strings. Actually, the idea for characters doesn't exist in Python. Everything that is in parentheses is a string. So let's do letters equals, and let's do A, B, C, and D. And in the same way, for example, if you want to print letters from 1 to 4, okay, if you want to do that, you print B, C, and D, right? Those here. So the same rules apply for letters. You can also do a two-dimensional lists. And don't get freaked out about the term two-dimensional. This is just list inside a list. For example, actually, let me comment in this list. We have squares and we have the letters. So if I do, for example, x would be equal to squares, comma, letters, then you will have the squares list and the letters list within our new x list. So let's see how this looks like. So let's print x right here, and you can see that we have a list of different lists, the squares and the letters. Pretty simple. So I will definitely leave this file and project into the resources for this course. You can go back to what we already wrote and check it out. And here, what I will do next is to show you just some simple steps to go towards programming. So far we were doing simple code execution and we didn't apply any particular logic, but let's change that. So let me just comment out those. By the way, you can comment out by control and then /. Okay, so let's call that first steps into programming. So let's write a simple while loop. Let's write first variables a and b, and this will be equal to 0 and 1. And this means that we assign 0 to a and b we assign to 1. Okay, so let's create a while loop, and we'll talk about while loops in the next videos. So while a is smaller than 10, okay, then I would like to print a, and then a would be equal to b, while b would be equal to a plus b. Okay, so don't get confused. That's a pretty simple program. So what we say here, while we use the while statement, we say while a is less than 10, so when we start, a will be equal to 1, so we'll enter this while loop. We want to print a, then a would be equal to b, so a would become 0. A would become actually 1 because we started with 0, and b would become a plus b, which in the first step would be 0 plus 1. Actually, let me write those on different lines so it's not confusing for you. So a initially would be 0, while b would be equal to 1. In the first step, a would be equal to b, which means that a would be equal to 1, and b would also be equal to 1. In the next step, a would be equal again to 1 because b is 1. However, b would be equal to 1, a plus b, which is 1, and it will become 2. And we'll execute again and again this while loop until a becomes equal to 10, at which point the while loop will break. Also, in many programming languages, you have normally a semicolon after every line, but in Python we don't have that. You simply need to control the indentation level. So this means that you need to have what is inside a loop exactly one tab space from where the loop starts. And this is pretty simple. So let's run that and let's see what's going to get printed. You can see that we got 0, 1, 2, 4, and 8. And these were the different values of a. So this is how you execute a while loop, guys. And this is the first actual programmatic thing that you've done so far. That's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. And next, we will focus on the control flow statements. Thanks for watching.